I look at yesterday's testimony as both frustrating and encouraging, and here's why. Ray said at least four things. He spoke four truths,
right?
And he spoke truth, by the way, to half a room of liars. When he said the things that needed to be said. This was domestic terrorism. People might shrug and go, yeah, I knew that. No big deal. No, that's a huge statement, because what it says to the people who were in there committing violence at the Capitol, you are not patriots. You are not doing an American thing. You are doing a terrorist thing. And that makes you a terrorist. And it makes those who radicalized you radicalizers of terrorists. So I thought that was a huge statement. Number two, he started cutting away at the big lie that the election was stolen. He said, no evidence of widespread voter fraud. And he went further and said, certainly no evidence of fraud that would overturn an election result. He then spoke truth about white supremacists. And boy, that was painful, because he said there's a lethality to white supremacy that the FBI is seeing in terms of their violence. And if you caught it, he said, like between commas, there were white supremacists at the Capitol insurrection. That's a huge statement. And then lastly, for me, he said, hey, no evidence that pretend Trump supporters, Antifa posing as Trump supporters, were in there instigating and committing the violence. Right. We needed to hear that from him.
Let's just hear that real quick, Frank. Here's Chris Wray yesterday.
As I said, militia violent extremism, some instances of racially motivated violent extremism, specifically advocating for the superiority of the white race.
Based on your investigation so far, do you have any evidence that the Capitol attack was organized by, quote, fake Trump protesters?
We have not seen evidence of that at this stage, certainly.
So, Frank, he obviously they face scrutiny over whether they properly shared intelligence leading up to the assault, as well as its broader role in addressing the nation's domestic terror crisis. Ray was not able to explain, when pressed multiple times by lawmakers, why the Norfolk Field Office's situational report is so far the only specific intel known to have been shared by the FBI prior to the January 6th attack, and why the Bureau seemingly wasn't able to pick up on extensive chatter among groups beforehand from individuals intent on committing violence. I think Malcolm Nance, who joins us in a little bit, has always said it was not a failure of intelligence. It was a failure to act on the intelligence. And I think today we're going to hear more from when it comes from the Pentagon as to what happened, right?
All right, so I'm going to have to arm wrestle Malcolm Nance over who came up with that phrase first. I say I did.
You're both pretty. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, there you go. I've been saying that it's not an intelligence failure. The intelligence was there, but just nobody acted on it. But Stephanie, this is the much deeper, larger question. I get so, my blood pressure rises if I hear another discussion of the FBI Norfolk memo, and whether it came in at 5:30 and whether it was an email or a verbal brief. My head is going to explode. Here's why. This is so much bigger than the FBI Norfolk memo, right? I say this to people who choose to focus on that goddamn memo is, would that have made, if it was waved in your face, would it have made any difference in your security posture on January 6th? If it came in a week before, if it was stapled to your forehead, would you have done anything different at the Capitol? And I am convinced the answer is no. And why am I convinced of that? We have a collective inability to view ourselves as a threat. When the FBI director says no, domestic terrorism is the number one threat, and people just go, yawn, it's because we can't see white people as a threat. And so
thank you.
But we have tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of social media posts for weeks before January 6th saying, I saw them. I saw people talking about overwhelming the Capitol Police. Okay.
Right.
The problem is we can't see it. We just, there's a blindness there.
But isn't that what we're going to get to the crux of today, Frank? The Pentagon it's because they were white Trump supporters, and the stand down to the National Guard must have come from the top, mustn't it?
Yeah. There's two important angles and this is why we need an independent commission. Because let's look at this. Let's look at the farce that's happening right now in these hearings. Who's doing the questioning? Everybody in that room was either a victim or a suspect on January 6th, and they're doing the questioning. This is a farce. So we've got to get to. The only reason I'm watching this.
Were you the only one that was struck by Josh Hawley going, now, if the FBI was going to collect someone's records, how would they do that? I was like, asking for a friend.
Do you have my phone records from that? Yeah. Yeah, and Chris Wray, people paint him as evasive on that question or unprepared. Here's what I think. He knows darn well they've collected the phone records of everybody inside that building, but he's not going to say that. And it's an ongoing investigation. And secondly, for the next insurrection, he doesn't want people to throw away their phones. He wants them to keep their phones and keep taking selfies of themselves committing violence.
It was almost like if, John Gotti got to be, one of the questioners. And now if you were going to do a wiretap, how would that go exactly? Where would the code be?
Hypothetically, hypothetically.
Right.
Yeah.
By the way, Andrew Mitchell tweeted, could someone on the judiciary please correct Senator Kennedy and the FBI director from continuing to propagate the false idea that Mayor Bowser had the power to call for the National Guard on January 6th? She does not. Only governors do. Presidents have power over D.C. Thank you. He ordered the code red. This came from the top. You can tell Kennedy was like playing a game show. Oh, black lady, that's who it's her fault.
let's blame the black lady. Yeah.
Right.
Look, these are the deep questions, right? The whole chain. Imagine a police department, the U.S. Capitol Police, guarding the iconic symbol of our democracy. And remember when former Chief Sund testified on the first hearing, and they said, Chief Sund, who's in charge of the Capitol Police? Now, you would think for most chiefs of police, that would be a very simple question. The first two words out of his mouth were, I think it's the Capitol Police Board, but then we have the sergeants at arms of the House and Senate. And then, there's the Speaker, and then there's the Senate Majority Leader. What the hell kind of chain of command is that for a police department? So now move that whole convoluted mess to the District of Columbia and try to figure out who calls out the National Guard. It's a recipe for disaster.
Well, and of course, what was it? What was yesterday's? Trump, I guess, and he did a call-in to Fox. Of course, blame Pelosi. That's the other ridiculous thing they're trying to do, that Pelosi ordered the stand down or whatever.
Stand down.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's absurd, Frank.
We do need an independent commission. We do have politicians that weigh in on the security in the police department. I don't know to what extent they did. I have no idea, but that's why we need. But here's my concern. After 9/11, we had an independent commission that got us to the truth, and most importantly, got us to tangible actions. We created DHS. We got the Patriot Act. We have a DNI. That all came from an independent commission. I'm very concerned that we are so deeply polarized today that we can't even put together an independent commission. They're already arguing about how to pick the people on the independent commission.
Frank, it's ridiculous that they're saying, let's investigate, Antifa and Black Lives Matter too then. When obviously Chris Wray and every other expert involved saying they're not in any way involved in January 6th. It would be like for 9/11 if we had insisted on, right? You got to also investigate MI6. It's like they weren't involved in, right?
9/11. I think MS-13 pulled off the insurrection. I really do. I think, was it Lindsey Graham or Josh Hawley?
Tom Cotton.
Yeah,
Let's talk about MS. Yeah.
MS-13, a street gang did this. And then how about Lindsey Graham? Well, could international terrorists have infiltrated the Capitol? What?
Oh, my God. Yeah.
Come on. I mean, we're not going to get any answers, Stephanie. We're just not.
Well, here's what Trump said. I definitely gave the number 10,000 National Guardsmen. I said you should have 10,000 National Guard ready. They took that number. From what I understand, they gave it to the people at the Capitol, which is controlled by Pelosi. I heard they rejected it because they didn't think it would look good. So, that was a big mistake. And Pelosi's spokesman said that claim is completely made up. I mean, it's
the lies continue. The lies continue. And look, the one thing Ray, and I have a column coming out today at MSNBC Daily on this. So Ray spoke 4 great truths to these liars yesterday, and we just went through them. But there's one thing he did not say. He did not go the step further and say, until we hold accountable some of the people in this room and former President Donald Trump for radicalizing this group of people, we're not going to resolve the domestic terrorism problem.
Yeah. Frank, just quickly on the Senator White House stuff, just because he basically was saying why the hell the FBI seems to think they don't need to answer any of Congress's question. For the record, he said, do you know how many questions, for the record, the FBI failed to answer in the last 4 years? I'll tell you. There were 9 hearings in this committee in which the FBI was a witness. 7 of them, they got exactly 0 questions, for the record. 7. 0 questions. Can you explain that? Ray's answer, of course, he could not. White House made sure to point out to Ray when the Republican members of Congress wanted information from the FBI about the Trump-Russia investigation, somehow they were able to get it quite easily and quickly. How were they saved the hassle and weight of the interagency process? And Ray sort of had nothing. Sheldon then asked him what they were going to do about this problem of the fact they have questions from way back to 2017 that has yet to be answered. I mean, I get what you're saying about the FBI not being politicized, but that seems to say it was under Trump. That Ray favored Trump and Republican supporters.
Yeah, it's pretty outrageous. The situation is outrageous, and I've got a 2-word answer, but it's I'm sure it's more complicated than that. The 2-word answer is Bill Barr. I think that Bill Barr was controlling any flow of information out of FBI headquarters to Congress. The sources I have, Stephanie, say that the briefings that, when I was assistant director, I was on the Hill, I don't know, a couple times a month, briefing. That my sources tell me that just came to a screeching halt, particularly with the Senate and House Intelligence Committees. Barr did not want the FBI briefing Congress, and I think he had a hand in this. Now, Ray has an opportunity to make this right under a new Attorney General, Merrick Garland, and not further politicize the FBI and go back in time and respond to all of these requests.
Yeah, he brought up, was this a fake investigation of Brett Kavanaugh? Because it sure looks like it. Sure looks like they didn't do a real investigation.
Now, all right. Now, I've written and spoken about this. And I don't know how much time we have, but that reinvestigation of Kavanaugh is based on existing protocols that absolutely have to change. And a lot of people don't understand this. When they reinvestigate a nominee, as they did with Kavanaugh for the Supreme Court, they treat the FBI is required to treat the request as a client relationship, meaning the White House is the client in this case, and they get to dictate the parameters of a reinvestigation. Interview that woman, but not that woman. Go do this, but not that. That rule needs to change, and it needs to change very quickly.
Yeah. Real quick before we go, Frank, what extra layer of enjoyment do you get as an FBI agent when you are able to catch someone because they're extra dumb, like many of the Capitol rioters that are taunting the FBI and saying, "I dare you to come arrest D's nuts with your chin," and that guy got arrested yesterday.
Yeah, please. Well, right. Please take selfies of yourself before and after the violence. Hopefully, a friend of yours will post a video of you beating somebody else. That's very helpful. I love the woman last week in Boca Raton, Florida. The FBI called her to try to set up a time to meet to discuss her presence at the Capitol. She goes on and posts a video saying, "I'm not coming, and if you come to my house, I'll kill you at the door." They arrested her for threatening assault on an FBI agent.
Yes, I would imagine.
Keep doing that.
Yeah, keep doing that.
That's great. I'm reminded of the bank robber who literally slipped the teller a demand note written on the back of his deposit slip.
Oh, yeah. Very good. Very good.
Yeah, love
now,
that.
the FBI has arrested more than 270 suspects. Ray said yesterday he called on the American public, the FBI's greatest partner in the investigation. They've received more than 270,000 digital media tips. I personally like the women that are turning in their ex-husbands or boyfriends for being, insurrectionist douchebags. Ladies, think of every FBI agent as handsome and fantastic as Frank Figliuzzi, and then just...
That's right.
Give him a jingle. Give him a little jingle.
Hell hath no fury like a woman scorned by a domestic terrorist.
Yes.
Right. Love you, Frank Figliuzzi. Good luck today. You'll be on TV every second of today. Thank you for your view.
Thank you, Frank.
All right.
Have a great day.
Get his
Take
book.
care.
Get his
Bye-bye.
best-selling book.